How you doing, Donald?
I just realized I was muted. Not bad. I'm not doing bad.
All right, that sounds good. You're in North Carolina, right?
Yeah.
I'm in Virginia,
Oh, what part?
Richmond.
Oh, okay. I grew up in Northern Virginia.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I used to live in Northern Virginia for a few years.
Cool.
Came down here, lower cost of living.
Yeah.
Hey Donna. Hey Donna.
Yeah, how's it going?
Yeah, good. I'm at Niagara Falls right now.
Oh, nice.
Uh-huh. I booked the hotel right now. It's right in front of the Niagara Falls. So you feel better now?
I I don't. I am better, but I'm not really better yet. I'm still testing positive, and it's been like 2.5 weeks. So it's
Oh,
crazy.
that's quite long.
Yeah.
But do you feel like say like a weak or like a drowsy or something like that? Or
I am definitely tireder, more than normal.
okay.
But like right now, like I've got a cough, and
Okay.
and that's about it right now. Maybe in my throat's a little sore, but
I heard a cough will take a while to get a.
this is kicking my butt, that's for sure.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, Kentaro, I saw you here.
Hi, Eddie. Good morning. Good
Nice to see you, Kentaro-san.
Nice to see you.
Yeah. Let's wait for another like 1 minute, then we can start. People normally try to gathering at the same time. Yeah. You bring a very interesting topic because we are, I think Donna probably will have more comments on that because we were thinking about like say, should we do the from BGP side all the way down to tracking the NetHop group. So you did a part of the work.
Yeah. Actually, it was a pretty basic one. So I do realize that we need more improvements in the logic from the Zebra and BGP or static itself. So so good that I could work with all of you.
Yeah. Because I already have the pressure, like say, like for the convergence. Right now, we have like say a little bit hacky way, basically based on the physical link, we were removing the impacted port at the awk agent. So this is more like say, based on the interface up and down like interrupt, we were fixing the the ECMP at the awk agent first before the convergence, so that give us the millisecond level, like the traffic loss windows. But that's it's very specific, so it'll be great in general if we can have the NetHop group, then this solution can be more generic. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, so NTT also using the SONiC.
Well, we have some national research project to make SONiC applicable for more broader than the data center switch.
Okay.
So we don't have it in production, but we have been working like a year and a half
Okay.
as a research and development project.
Gotcha. Interesting. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's good.
Actually, SONiC is slowly getting popular in Japan in the past half year or a year. Like ADDI, another national carrier, started using it for summer production. I think it's Ishii SONiC, but and the Line, very popular messaging app in Japan, Korea.
Okay.
They started using it as well. But
I see.
basically, it's all for the data center topograph. So,
Okay.
So we want to kind of enhance to make it applicable for other use cases as well.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. I see people are joining in right now. Yeah. I think once this one today's talk, I think next week, Donna, you want to like start talking about like the BGP next hop group, the enhancement.
Do I want to talk about it?
I think like something because you mentioned it like say how to tracking the BGP like at the prefix at the BGP level between the prefix and the top group, right?
I don't know if I've actually spent enough time to be ready to present something next week, in all honesty.
Okay, I see. Yeah, because I feel like if we can once the Kantara done his part. Because I feel like he did pretty much the zebra to the FPM sync D changes, so it'd be good like if you we could put some people like say to do the BGP works. So then that would be awesome. Yeah. Okay. Kantara, can you start it? I think we already like say almost like 5 minutes past, so it's good. We can start it right now. Yes.
So I sent I found some typos, so I fixed a bit from the slides I sent yesterday, but I'll send updated one after this.
Okay, great.
So,
thanks.
So basically what we're doing is very first step for supporting NextHop group. We found that ASIC-DB already supports it, but notice that AppleDB FPM sync to AppleDB path did not support it. So we were adding it slowly since like last year. So it's listed as a feature candidate for the next 2023-11 release. And we just sent pull request for it yesterday. We have to sign the CLA, but the document itself is here. And the status is that we first implemented based on 2022-05 release, which is pretty old. So we have to kind of port it to the latest master branch, and it's ongoing. Hopefully we could do it this or next month. So it's working in old one, but not in the new one. So yeah, as we briefly talked, it's very first step, and I believe there's more testing and code improvements have to be done. So any feedback from experts are really appreciated. So what we have done is pretty simple. We, as startup, we enabled the DeepLink FPM netlink plugin and enabled the NextHop groups in FPM. And on the FPM sync D side, majority of changes inside the FPM sync D. So when we receive RTM new NextHop or Dell NextHop, from Zebra. We change it to handle it and set next up group table instead of a single route table entry. And as we just briefly discussed, the objective is to do a first step for enabling next up group from FPM SYNC-D. So in the future, we could improve the more logic, like, for example, we might be able to update the next subgroup entry itself and not all the route table entry if there's any small change happen in the next subgroup multi path route entry. Or maybe we could just use update next subgroup ID instead of updating all the next subgroup in the route entry if there's many multi-path next hops. And to see what actually we have done, I have a log of setting two routes with two next hop, and which share the same next hop group, and compared with the vanilla community version and the one with our change. So on the top, this is the vanilla version. When we set the IP route with two next hops, then the route table would have two next hop. And for our change, when we have the same, we would have route table with next hop group attribute. And for that next hop group, inside next hop group table, we would have a next hop group entry with the multipass next hops. And when we add another route with the same next hop, then for the vanilla version, it would just simply repeat the same next hop inside the route table entries, but ours would reuse the next hop group ID and just set the next hop group ID instead of setting another next hop group entry. And flow diagram from Zebra FPM SYNC-D to Redis AppleDB is something like this. If you are familiar with Netlink, I think this is very straightforward. Without next hop group, we would use RTM new route, and which includes all the next hops. But with next hop group, we stored the information in FPM SYNC-D until we receive a new route which use that next hops. So once we receive that new route with using those next hops, then we would then set table entry in the AppleDB Redis server. And this list shows some example. For the step 1, 2, 3, we will be receiving the next hop gateway and next hop group. And when we receive the fourth event, RTM new route, which uses that next hop group, then we would create a new next hop group table entry and route table entry, which using the just created next hop group table entry. And the changes, this is based on 2022-05. So I would expect some of the changes are not necessary anymore. But so I would update the HLD and documents once we figure out what exact change we need for the latest master branch. But what we have done for the old one is that we just change SONiC build image to change the startup setups, and some change in the LibNet link to support Next by D. And the main change was done in FPM syncd, which we changed FPM link C++ to handle RTM new and del next hops and route syncs code to handle those and set proper next hop group in the Redis database. And we noticed we now support deep learning FPM netlink as a default plugin in the latest master. So I think we don't need these kind of changes when we.
Hey, hello.
Hello.
Sir. Hey.
Any comment? Okay. So that's all for what we have done. There are some.
Kentaro, can I ask a question?
Yes. Okay.
So can you go back to our new next stop? You are creating individual next stops, 116 and 117, and then using that those two next stops in the third message, right? In the is there a netlink option to have all those 116 and 117 part of a single message itself instead of sending 3 messages? No.
I'm not sure, but this is what Zebra sent us.
That's the way the Linux kernel expects to receive the data. There is no combined netlink message to do that. You have to generate each individual singleton next ops, and then you have to specify the next op group.
Okay, all right.
Separate activities. It's just the way it was designed.
Okay, all right.
Thanks for follow-up.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think there's some issues we face. So I have listed some of them I am aware of. So I noticed that for a simple and small use cases, the performance of the new proposed behavior would be kind of would not be an improvement, but would take more time because we have to handle kind of more complex way. So we have to find the balance of the compute and memory and some processing delay, which would happen when we handle next op group versus that the AppleDB update overhead, etc. And I think this is not just about FPM syncd logic, but this is also something we have to consider about Zebra logic and maybe the routing daemons. And as a
can I ask a question about that? That's kind of interesting because when I did the testing of next hop groups, I found that when I started getting anything beyond like 4-way ECMP, and I started installing a lot of routes that use that one next hop group, it was actually faster. And the installation time from Zebras and getting everything done was faster, mainly because we just stopped sending so much data. Because like like if I have say I have 16-way ECMP and I'm installing 10,000 routes, that's 16 times 10,000 that I have to send down for each route install, right? So you have that's that versus the 16 times 1, which makes a huge difference. 10,000 times 1 versus 10,000 times 16. So I just find it interesting that that you found that there's a performance issue from Zebra perspective in that way. So could you expand on that a little bit more?
Yeah. So if I understand correctly, your testing was done for the Linux kernel, right? Not SONiC. Yeah. So for SONiC, because AppleDB supports kind of this combined message, it's more of FPM syncd to the AppleDB performance. I believe I don't have detailed analysis, but for example, when we add these kind of two routes which share same next subgroup, we only have two entries in the route table in the AppleDB. But when we use next subgroup, we have to have another one. And in SONiC, there is, I believe, org agent or something changing this AppleDB single line entry to next subgroup. So it's kind of, how do I say? It's a bit different from the how kernel process, because kernel directly has received this message, but in SONiC we have AppleDB in front of ASIC-DB and then go into the data plane. So I'm guessing that is the difference, and that's some place which the next subgroup has some overhead when we use it in the SONiC.
Okay.
Yeah, Kentaro, one question here, like I say, right now you have the network group ID. Who will be assigned this network group ID? It's FPM syncd to assign it, or it's Zebra to assign it?
I think it's FPM syncd.
Okay, I see. So
actually, ID itself is assigned by Zebra, but
Kentaro-san, this is I'm a colleague of the Kentaro-san. So I think the ID is assigned by the Zebra using the same ID with the for the netlink. I think.
Yeah. So,
but if ID is assigned by Zebra, then this picture 1, 2, 3, what does that mean? Would that be, because I think that will go back to the either Venkata or the Donna in the question, like I say, how do you currently using the netlink messages to passing the NetHop group information down? So I'm a little bit confused there. Yeah.
So because the format of the AppleDB is that we have next group table with next hops like this, and for Linux netlink, this next hop itself is an ID. So it has next hop attribute ID with next hop gateway. So I think I have some picture. So it's one layer. It has one more layer of hierarchy in Linux kernel. Or maybe this one is better. So it has a route pointing to next subgroup, pointing to next sub for the Linux kernel. But
this is what the Linux kernel has, right? But the question is like for the netlink message format, how do you pass in the NetHop group, right?
Yeah, so the netlink message also passes it the same way. So it passed next hop which is this next stop, and then send next stop same new next stop message, but it has a next stop group attribute, including the 2 next stops or more, maybe.
So
However,
do you cache the next stop, because the schema is defined for only the next stop group, right? For the individual next stops, we don't have any schema in the application DB, which means we have to cache those information until you get the net link with next stop group in the
Correct.
FMCD. Is that correct?
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
So we have to do more performance testing, but my guess is that these kind of caching and translation we have to do from Zebra netlink to the AppleDB schema is someplace which we don't get performance improvement as same as we get on the Linux kernel data plane.
Actually, I have like 2 comments here. One is like say this cache mechanism. One, because right now, previous discussion for the SRv6, we have decided to say, hey, we want to add in the protobuf communication channel between the FPM, between the Zebra and the FPM syncd. So this could be another good example to showing like say, hey, I was just passing the NetHub group directly from the Zebra to the FPM syncd via this protobuf instead of do the caching, because that will be more confusing. So if I would say, instead of just do the caching, because you try to beating on the net link, we probably can just extend it within the protobuf, which probably will be more straightforward. That's one comment I would get. But then the other comments I would see, like say, this is another thing which we disclosed. Actually, one of my colleague, like Gongjian, raised a PR. I think Donna, you was give comments there. It's like say, although we not intentionally to using like 256 ECMPs, but today, because Zebra clapping the 2 levels, so because we have the recursive for 16/16 the ECMPs. So ideally, it should be like say the 2 levels of the ECMP, but as of today, we actually clapping them to be the 256 ECMP. Then we see the problems. Say, hey, someone using UE8 for the non-passes. So if we could continue with what the Kentaro you have thought, then Zebra can passing down these 2 recursive ECMPs, that probably will be even better. Then let the platform decide to see that should they clapping them together because of hardware limitation, or should they like making the ECMP which they can take the benefit on the recent hardware, because normally most hardware can support 2-level or 3-level ECMPs in hardware. So then convergence will be much smoother. That's my point. So that's basically the 2 comments I would like to give.
So Eddie, based on your comment, I think to implement that, we need some schema change for the AppleDB, right?
Yes or no, because schema changing for the AppleDB is like today, AppleDB itself has the NetHub group, right? It's basically the FPM syncd get all the messages. Then based on, like say today we don't do the weight, so we just based on the input you just like you're showing here based on the like NetHub key and the ICE numbers. Then we index go into the NetHub group which is in the AppDB. And I like your idea is because you already assigned the ID in the Zebra, then this make life easier. The key, we don't necessarily to be the NetHub, this NetHub, number of NetHubs and the interfaces. And the weight and the weighted ECMP can be getting even smoothly, because I don't even need to introducing another the UE8 to say, hey, I need to support the weighted ECMP in the FPM syncd.
So, but in that case, I think we have to support next of group attribute inside next of group table entry.
Next hop group. No, what I mean is that the next hop, the AppDB already have next hop group, right? So today the next hop group will be created by the APM syncd. So I will say, like, if we can pass in the message directly, as if you go like say one slide above, like say the one you cache in the next hop, then eventually create the next hop group, right? So this one, instead of like say caching next hop, we could let Zebra to creating give the message like through the proverb or something, then let the creating the next hop group directly. So what I mean is that, like say, let Zebra's next hop group expose directly to the APM in the FTP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but then we can simplify the whole thing.
Yes, and I think I got your point. And my point is that currently next of group table entry does not have next of group attribute, or does it?
Yeah, they don't. Today is like the APM syncd is like say using the key to find on their own. Mm-hmm. Right. So there's no next hop group attribute here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
So that definitely we need. So that, but that will be the attribute changing in the routes, right?
I think it's in the next of group table entry itself. If we want to make it hierarchical.
For hierarchy, yes, you're right. For hierarchy, yes, basically with the next hop group, we need over and then next hop group. Yes. And today we only allow one level, so we don't allow the hierarchy at all.
And even for one level, are suggesting that Zebra to resolve the next hop ID to the actual next hop interface and IP address.
Say it again. I didn't get your comments.
So right now in the netlink, it has next hop is identified by next hop ID and not IP address and interface name. But in AppleDB, we have to have IP address and interface name and not the next hop ID. So that would be another change. So
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just kind of thinking out loud that we have to do some change in AppleDB as well.
I think the change in the AppleDB is cannot be avoided. We have to change it. So then my question is, like, today, if you go back to your slide, this is you might say, hey, I don't want to change the Zebra. I just want to change in the APM syncd to introducing another next hop group. But my point is, like, say, should we just let the Zebra exposing the next hop group directly? And eventually that's something I want to have the comment from the Donna say, what that if we tracking the BGP prefix with next hop group, then we can pass in the next hop group information all the way down from the BGP all the way down to the hardware. Because that probably will be more efficient from convergence point of view.
Yeah, I think, yeah. But I'm thinking out loud, but in that case, I'm wondering what would be the role of the AppleDB, because if the message we input in the AppleDB is close to the data plane, then I think we might be able to install it in ASICDB directly. But
I would say AppleDB is more like, say, handling the platform related information. So say hypothetically, I would say, for example, in recent SRv6, once we introduce the policy, actually we have 3 levels ECMPs. We have policy, then overlay, then we have underlay. So it's kind of like 3 levels. Then we have to clapping. So AppDB probably the way to say, because the hardware chip limitations, so we have to clapping 1 levels to become 2 levels. So AppDB is more focusing on the platform related things. But Zebra should be opaque to that. Zebra should give so that's why I'm kind of say Zebra should not clapping any recursively, passing through that recursive directly. Let the platform decide to do, because today we clapping it because the Linux kernel cannot supporting the recursive. That's why we have to clapping it. But if we leave the Linux kernel alone, like say, because we don't let Linux kernel determine the hardware capability, then ideally I would prefer, like say, Zebra passing the recursive nesthop group all the way down. Then I can avoiding, like say, I see 256 ECMP pass between the Zebra and the because it's an overlay 16 versus the underlay 16, so it should not be clapping. That's my point. Then if we do that, then underlay changing, say for example, 1 pass going down will be much simpler. I don't even need to back walk to the overlay to resolving that to say, hey, I from the 256 to the 16 times 15 or something like that. So I think you bring a very good problem here, but I say like if we moving this one even up to between the Zebra and the FPM SYNC-D, let Zebra passing the nesthop group probably be more valuable.
So would that be a new plugin for Zebra?
No, it's just you could. If, say, for example, like this is something depending how we, because today, say, from the recursive routes case, we let Zebra clapping directly. So I would say if we don't do that, but the clapping code will be done, will be, say, for example, once we go into the kernel, then they do the clapping because the Linux kernel cannot support recursive. Then they have to do the clapping. But if going to the hardware, if we take your thought, like I say, hey, let the nesthop group all the way passing down, then the underlay nesthop group and the overlay nesthop will passing down on its own. So then let the FPM SYNC-D can say based on hardware capability, say for example, some low end hardware, say, I only be able to supporting the 1 level, then FPM can do the clapping. So basically my point is don't let the Zebra is too high. Right now, we don't even have this kind of like hardware. At least I don't aware of it. But if back to 2000, pretty much everybody, they can only do 1 level at the line rate. But now I see that most people can do 2 levels. So then in that case, clapping at the Zebra will be too high. So I don't know, like I say, what do you guys think? Yeah.
So my another point I received from Eddie, I'm not sure if you're here, but there's might be some backward compatibility issue. I am not aware of this functionality itself, but I heard that there might be some features expecting the current FPM behavior. So we might also make sure what kind of impact we would have changing this.
I think that this is the basic Linux kernel's mode, right? Net IPv4 nesthop compatible mode. And that's why I was thinking that we should separate the Linux kernel handling with FPM SYNC-D the hardware structure.
Actually, this one doesn't affect that much. I think the more is that there are some org agent functionality which would kind of generate next subgroups for ECMP based on some policy, or I'm not sure, but when translating from AppleDB entry to basic DB.
I'm not sure.
yeah.
Because this one I would be cautious. I would question, like say, if this is like say, for example, if we don't only do one level, then it should be the same. So what you did is like say, either like say this network group created by Zebra, or is it created by the FPM SYNC-D, right? And also like you bring like I say introducing the ID concept, which like you cache in. So logically, if we keep it as is, it should not be changing. So I don't understand his comments here. But if we do the recursive, like I say, hey, we passing the recursive from Zebra to the FPM SYNC-D, then that will be definitely changing. But then my question is like, what the previous work, it makes sense or not?
I think, yeah, I should check with Eddie. If he's not here, then maybe on the mailing list.
So Kentaro, this is basically today we have the with individual next stops, and then we are on them we are applying fine-grained next stop group and ordered ECMP and all those things, right? With the new approach, with the new schema we are introducing, we should make sure that those features are supported. So right, so we need to make sure that compatibility, we are not going to touch. It's going to be mutually exclusive, I believe. It's not like there can be some routes with individual next stops and some routes with the next stop group ID and all those things, right? We are not going to obsolete the current individual next stops for a route and then migrate to the next stop group ID immediately. So we will be having both working for a few releases, and then if we think everything is migrated, then we can obsolete that route with next stop, individual next stops. So we should make sure whatever the the fine-grained ECMP that we are supporting today in the community, we should make sure that's all the features are working for the next stop group as well.
Yeah, my only concern is that if there's any change I have made, could not kind of exist together with the old expectation.
Right. Yeah, there's something we need to sort out with in the coding, like how we are isolating the new changes instead of making a lot of the existing changes, and we should leverage as much as possible the existing changes. But if there are cases where it could impact the backward compatibility issues, then we may need to create a new code for that.
So one quick question is that are we keep using FPM plugin at least for the next release? I saw the default was changed to dplane FPM and netlink, but
I don't know the Venkata or like Donna, you have any comments? Because we are using FPM like module always. We didn't move into the netlink, this new FPM netlink modules. So I think that's in the part of the data plan module, right?
So about 6 months back, I was asked to add a feature for the wait for install inside of Zebra. And the only way I really saw doing that was through the dplane FPM netlink. And so I did that, and I think what the long-term goal is, my understanding at least, I'm not going to claim full 100% guarantee here, but my understanding is the long-term goal is everyone should be switching over to the dplane FPM netlink. Because that's where new features are going in. I don't have a requirement with the FR community does not have a requirement that if a new feature comes in that it has to be going to the FPM, but it does have to go with the dplane FPM netlink. There's that, and if you want to do any type of wait for install, you should use the dplane FPM netlink. So the dplane FPM netlink is the future, and FPM is long-term going away.
Okay. So you mean like, say for example, like the currently we adding the protobuf in parallel with netlink, so we should add into this the FPM netlink mod code instead of adding the FPM plugin.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Gotcha. Yeah. So then that's fine. Yeah, that's just to say like how we want to package, which we definitely don't want to both of them. If we stick with one, then we will always move on with one. It just say like we probably at this moment Ali is still using the FPM plugin, but we are okay. Like if we the community decided to say, hey, move into FPM and netlink, then we will move into there also in the future. But let's go back to like the Kantara's change. So I think like say the question is like say this, should we exposing this one to the Zebra, or we will still keeping the current like logic is like say in FPM SYNC-D? I think that's probably something we probably see what you guys take here. Yeah, I'm probably more aggressive to see exposing this to Zebra.
I don't know what your question is.
No, in the sense like say for the should Zebra to passing the NetHawk group directly to the FPM SYNC-D instead of like current his way, like say passing the NetHawk, then caching it, then eventually he creating NetHawk group. If you
but we don't have that option, right, Eddie? Today with Netlinks, unless you go for a protobuf based,
yes,
message format, it's not possible.
Yeah, that's true.
It is today.
So that's why I say like say if we are so basically say hierarchy, which one we preferred. Then if we, because it's just an amount of coding, right? If we say, hey, in the long run, we feel like say let the Zebra passing that our group is more makes sense, then we probably say this one going to the protobuf will more make sense, right? Because we cannot just because if we say this is the benefit, but the netlink doesn't support it, we should not limit it on that, right? So that's why I was asking from the community point of view to see what do you guys take, say, because I know that today netlink doesn't have that. That's why, like I say, Kantara also making this as a workaround. But my question is like say on the long term going further, what you guys will prefer to see? If in the future, I think last time we say, hey, everything will go into netlink and would go to protobuf in the long run, would that be more make sense to also moving this one now into the protobuf? Because then we don't need to worry about this caching or these mechanisms. And then if we do that, we can also very easily to support the recursive. Because today, if we don't do that, recursive is pretty much not possible because we cannot pass that information down.
Yeah, makes sense, Eddie. I think as much as possible, if you could reduce the number of message exchange between Zebra and FPM SYNC-D, and then if you are completely avoiding the caching part and the FPM SYNC-D, I think we should go for it. But we are not there yet, basically,
Yes.
unless we have some, the preliminary design in place to have the protobuf and how things should be. We can enable that protobuf for some, independent features for now for the community to, look at it and comment on them, and then we can start introducing additional pages, additional routing features with protobuf maybe. So.
I think the protobuf right now we will probably adding the one is the SRV policy, one the MySID, both on the SRV side. So I don't know if Kantaro will be the one to try to say, hey, let's do the same the protobuf for the NetHawk group. Because the moment we adding that, it's a more powerful. Because for me, I will see if you go into that your 1, 2, 3 the caching that algorithm, that part we can removing that the caching part. We can go directly, and also we can add in the recursive in more easily.
So you already I saw the last meeting's recording. Are you already have the protobuf plugged in?
No, we are adding right now. I could ask one of my intern to present what he want to do for this summer. So, but that at this moment, we just want to first one is adding the channel. The other one is we only adding the format because right now we only using for the MySID and the SRV policy. But I feel like yours one is another good candidate. Then you can avoid all the caching part. Then that's Zebra, because you said Zebra allocated the ID. Today you just don't have a way to pass in the group directly because nothing does support it. But if we say add in the protobuf, then we get it more naturally. And also, if once we do that, then the recursive basically say the BGP. It's not a VPN case, just a regular global table BGP over the ID. The 2-level, like I say, recursive case can be handled more efficiently. That's just my comments. I feel like I say this is a good starting point. I feel like I say Kantaro get a good starting point, but I will encourage you to go even further. So then we can basically leverage your infra to build more on top of it. Today, the proposal you have is more like you try to, based on leverage current what you have, and work around it, but the benefit may not that much.
Right.
And also more complicated because you try to caching and then you try to use the ID to coming back. So my question, why not just send it directly through the protobuf? Then logical, I think, is more straightforward. Yeah.
So Eddie, we may need. I'm not sure we talked about the capabilities exchange between FPM SyncD and Zebra. So if we have not done that, maybe that's something we may need to consider as well, because it really depends on some platform may support the NextStop group, and some platform may not support it. They want individual NextStops and all those things. We can have it by default supported, enabled, or whatever, and then we can tune it accordingly. So these capabilities will be useful not for just this feature, but it will be useful for other features as well. So in general, we need one capabilities exchange.
Yeah, I think he already added that capability, right? So he already added some NetHawk. I saw that in his presentation, the Kantaro already added that capability. So we can make this as a capability on that. But my point is like once you enable that capability, should we go even further?
I think, Venkat, you're suggesting that we have some way to exchange capability information between Zebra and FPM SyncD, so Zebra could send the message where FPM SyncD wants to, based on the platform, or maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. Today there were some responses defined in the FPM SyncD for the BGP error cases, I guess, but I need to look at it. Whether the capabilities are clearly defined at the FPM SyncD level. If not done, maybe it's maybe as part of the protobuf feature park, maybe we can add few capabilities and other stuff. Yeah.
What I want to see is more like say let the zebra more naturally to see, hey, oh, this is all the following instruction, the structures, then passing down to the FPM SYNC-D. Let the FPM SYNC-D to decide how the hardware forwarding should be done. And say, for example, Linux should be considered as some special, like say, the hardware capability instead of let Linux determine the zebra behavior. This is more like from architectural point of view, yeah.
So Eddie, what do you want to do as a first step? Basically, there's a pull request in the community already for the next talk group. You want to go ahead as is, or you want to make the prototype changes for the next talk group and then resubmit the HLD? What do you want to do?
I would rather see that Kantara what he want to do, right? If he
Okay.
want to like work, I can help like to adding the protobuf because right now we are doing it. So if Kantara say like he's open to that discussion, I can working with him, like get someone working with him to get it done. But it's right up to the Kantara.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I would just continue porting my feature to the latest master, and so all of you could actually see what kind of change we have done.
Yeah.
And based on that, I think we could discuss if it's not as effective as the change amount. If it is, we could just put it in. If not, I think we could continue discussion about the other path that we have brainstormed today.
Yeah, sure. I'm okay with that. Basically, you treated yours more like the phase one to say, hey, we introducing this concept and you allocated the NH group ID in Zebra. But today we probably won't do that because we want to leverage based on the current netlink approach limitations. So we will cache in it and do whatever the limitation we want. So this is the phase one. But we can exposing in the future. I think this is more for the long term what we want. If we shooting set and say, hey, or maybe in your HLD you say, hey, in the long term this is the goal we want to achieve. This is what you have is more like a phase one. We want to get something done, then we can build on top of it. That's fine for me.
Okay. I think I should also look into the Zebra a bit more. How it holds the next of group structure and yeah.
Actually, there are two things. One is like next week, the meeting. I can ask one of my interns to talk about the protobuf the idea. It's a very simple. Basically, we adding the protobuf in the FPM NL. So that's one. So then one thing you can think about it, if you want to leverage on top of it or not. The second one I want to like I say talk about like the one recent the PR we raised in FR. we want to introduce it thing the 256 ECMP pass. But that 256 is not because we really want to use the 256. It's just because we do the recursive 16/16. When Zebra clapping it to be the 256. So I think like I saw like Donna make some comments on that. Let's talk about that PR also, because that will be the good the use case to see, because this is very common because I have like say somebody over the because 16 ECMP pass underlay is pretty normal in the data center. Then I have like something recursive over that is also common. So if we keep doing today, it's very easy to exposing that we hit on the same problem which we did right now, and we see that 256 ECMP pass. Ideally, we should not see that because it's in realistically it's a 2-level ECMP. So then we can just give it some more hint to the Kantara to say what are the problem we see. Then maybe like I say, should we fine tune and say set up the long-term goal for the next hall group. And also I want like Donna to think about like I say, should we like put more folks to changing the BGP to the next hall group tracking. Because the moment the BGP can do that, then we can pass in that group from BGP to Zebra, then all the way to the hardware. It's more efficient from the convergence point of view. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the feedback. I would continue my work and a bit more study. And if I find anything, I would email and.
Good.
And I'm looking forward to the protobuf if you could present next week.
Okay, so next week I will ask my colleague like to present two things. One is like I said, protobuf, what we currently the intern will do for the summer. So then the second one is that PR. I would like to Gongjian to describe it, why the 16 over 16 in our use case, and why we hit the problem. Yeah. So that probably the good topic for next week. Then we can come back to discuss more on your proposal. Yeah.
Okay.
Would that be okay for everyone? Good.
Sounds good, ready.
Okay, good. Then we're pretty much on the top of the hour. So then we can stop here. That's thanks, Kantara-san. That's a good discussion. I think you started the good move, which everybody love it, because once we start on this direction, that will helping on the convergence significantly.
Yeah, thank you for the great feedback.
Yeah. Good. Okay, thanks. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
So see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.